This is a tale of two toll roads, both alike in dignity, Rossfeldstrasse and Grossglockner. And of course, it's also the tale of the car driven on them. Welcome to the new Aston Martin DBS Superleggera. We're beginning in Berchtesgaden near Salzburg, teetering along the border between Germany and Austria, on a road built in the late 1930s, yes, by him. It forms the finale to a route known as the German Alpine Road and has seen numerous competitive hill climbs over the years. It ascends 3,500 feet in 10 miles, and its crowning glory is this, the Hahnenkamm Ridge. Rather fitting really, as the DBS is meant to be the crowning glory of Aston's new road car range.
The new Aston Martin range really has been crying out for this halo car, something that definitely sits at the top of the tree, the real daddy of the range. And now in this DBS they've definitely got that. The looks are so muscular, so imposing, you just can't help but look at this car.
The new bodywork isn't just for show either. It's crafted from carbon fibre and helps save 72 kilos compared to the weight of a standard V12 DB11, although that still makes it about 40 kilos heavier than the DB11 V8. Mind you, it had to be a V12 in the Halo car really, and the 5.2 litre twin-turbo engine under the bonnet is quite a thing.
We've got 715 brake horsepower, we've got 663 pounds-foot of torque, and that's what you really feel with this engine. This twin-turbo 5.2 litre V12 is such a big chested engine with all that torque I mentioned before, then it means you end up using relatively small throttle openings a lot of the time because it can just cruise along using a fraction of its true potential, and that makes it even more shocking when you do actually put the throttle all the way to the bulkhead. It's got so much torque that they've actually had to limit the torque output in the first and second gears.
This perhaps partially explains why the 0 to 62 mph time is a claimed 3.4 seconds rather than anything dipping into the 2s. The gearbox itself is a revised version of the ZF 8-speed, and while it lacks the drama and crispness of a DCT, it changes swiftly and smoothly. The impressive thing about the DBS though is that it really lets you use all that humongous power and torque. Traction has thankfully been vastly improved over the DB11, and as such the thumping numbers aren't just theoretical, you can actually deploy them on the road, which is quite a feeling. The top speed incidentally is 211 miles an hour, a number that is conveniently identical to another super fast car.
There was a lot of expectation indeed, a lot of chat from Aston Martin really about comparing this to the Ferrari 812. Some of it was distancing it from it, some of it was comparing it to it favourably in terms of in-gear acceleration times and things like that. But this car it's totally different to the Ferrari, to be honest. That Ferrari is light and agile, and it feels like a sort of several classes below in boxing terms, whereas this is a proper super heavyweight of a car.
Having said that, the beautifully weighted steering on the DBS is much more natural than the Ferraris, and is easily the best of any of the new generation of Astons. As we've seen before, there are 3 drive modes and 3 suspension settings. In the DBS's case, GT, Sport and Sport Plus, with race still being reserved for the Vantage. The DBS is surprisingly firm in its demeanour, even in GT mode, and although this gives you a good sense of connection with how the tyres are coping with the surface below you, it never felt entirely settled. I toggled between the GT and Sport damper settings numerous times on different pieces of road, but the DBS just never felt completely composed. Having said that, it undoubtedly feels happier the faster you go, and the steering is so good that you can thread this big car down narrow roads with real accuracy and confidence.
You certainly need the big carbon brakes to help bring this to a stop. Thankfully, even plummeting down the side of this mountain, they've still been really, really good. The further you go into the travel, the more feel you get, the more power you get, so there's a nice progression to them. The thing that's disappointed me about this car is, I'm afraid, the interior, because you look at the outside and it looks sufficiently different to DB11. It really does. It's so much sort of broader shoulder, nipped in at the waist. We've been there. It looks wonderful. You get in here, and to be honest, if you covered up the couple of DBS badges, the one that appears on the screen here and the one that's on the seat behind me, you really wouldn't know you were in anything different. And that's a shame. I think not because it's a bad interior, but if this had come first and then it came in the DB11, you'd probably understand it because you think you were getting good value in the DB11, but to have this as the halo car with the cheaper car's interior just doesn't feel quite right. There's no complaints about the performance though. What an amazing piece of road this is, surrounded by the mountains. But as lovely as this road is, this is a car that feels like it needs something even more spectacular.
So, making use of the DBS's GT credentials, we set off on a bit of a road trip early the following morning. Why? Well, because a couple of hours away lies another toll road, and it is perhaps the most impressive one anywhere in Europe, possibly even the world. Climbing to over 8,000 feet, this is the Grossglockner, the highest road in Austria. It was built just a few years before the Rostfeldstrasse and stretches sinuously southwards for over 18 miles. It is absolutely stunning, although heavy snow means it generally lies hidden from view from late autumn to late spring. It's also worth mentioning that you should try to get there either very early or very late in the day if you want to avoid the crowds. This is no hidden gem, I'm afraid. And what of the DBS? Well, the steering is excellent and the engine is mighty, but it feels like the chassis' fundamental DB11 underpinnings have perhaps been pushed to their limit. As such, it has the character of a brutishly fast GT car, rather than an all-out front-engine supercar like the Ferrari 812. But, make no mistake, the DBS is monstrously fast. Its 900 Nm of torque is the equal of a LaFerrari or McLaren P1. And what's more, the DBS has the traction to back it up. That sensation that you're being hurled at the horizon just never gets old. For me though, the greatest success of the DBS is the way that it looks. For once, let subjectivity be damned, because I think everyone agrees. This is the most handsome and imposing Aston for some time, probably since the original Vanquish in fact. It has true star quality, and you would feel better about life every time you open the garage door. In fact, it's a car that possesses looks that live up to the grandeur of a road like the Grossglockner, and that is a very impressive thing indeed.